Hey, what's up guys? It's Rick with The Digital Divide, and 2023 was a really rough year, particularly if you were in the tech industry or the video game industry. There were so many layoffs. Inflation is really destroying a lot of industries. So rather than do a Game of the Year list, I want to celebrate the developers that make these games, and they enable us to enjoy the hobby that we love. And I want to focus on the people who build these games, because they put their blood, sweat, and tears into creating video games. These teams should be celebrated. They're often forced to work like 70, 80 hours a week. So I'm going to do a top 10 list of my favorite developers, and this is not going to be in any particular order with the exception of the number 1 spot. So we're going to start off with number 5, which is Sony Japan Studio, and they have a lot of teams. Team Ico is probably their most famous team. They're known for making Ape Escape and Parappa the Rapper back in the day. They also made Ico for the PlayStation 2, which is an absolute classic game. I remember playing this. It was one of the first games I picked up on the PlayStation 2, and it was absolutely beautiful at the time. They're known for making very unique games with concepts that not many developers have tackled before. This is one of the best games of all time. They also made the Astrobot series, which is incredible. To this day, it is still the best VR game I've ever played, and they also made the pack-in for the PlayStation 5, Astro's Playroom. So these guys just make such a variety of games. Some of them are silly, some of them are dead serious. Another example of one that I loved personally was a game called The Last Guardian. Now, this came out on the PlayStation 4. It was known for having a really tumultuous development process. It was originally intended to come out on the PS3, and then it got moved to the PS4, and it took so long to make. But I absolutely loved the final result. I know that reviews were mixed, but I loved it. I love their style of game, and I know a lot of people say they tend to make the same looking games that kind of have a blown out exposure. But I love that their games don't hold your hand. They kind of just plop you in the world, and you have to figure it out on your own, and I really like that. Another example of their creativity is a game called The Puppeteer, which released on the PlayStation 3. This was a marionette-style game, and I absolutely loved it. You play as this little character. His head gets lopped off in the beginning of the game, and then you can collect heads as you progress through different worlds, and each head gives you a different ability and power. The visual design, again, is just unbelievably cool. It's just unique, and it's something that no other developer, I think, really does. Sony Japan is just on another level when it comes to creativity, and I really enjoyed this one. A lot of the characters have like a paper mache look, and the lighting is unreal for a PlayStation 3 title. The visuals here were super impressive at the time that it released. Probably, though, my favorite game that they've ever made is Shadow of the Colossus. This game is remarkable. It is in my top 5 greatest games ever made list, easily. Right now I'm showing you footage from the PlayStation 4 remake that they did. Originally, this launched on the PlayStation 2, though, if you can believe that. The visuals look absolutely astounding. Even today, this looks better than most PlayStation 5 games that I've played, and the scale and scope of the world and the mystery surrounding it is unparalleled. I don't think there's any developer out there that makes this style of game and does it so well. Sony Japan Studios is up there. Any game that they put out, I'm going to at least give it a try. They have a really great track record. At number 4, we have Insomniac Games.
Being a Stormer, it's more than just kicking ass. Show us you got what it takes, and then maybe, just maybe, we'll send you out on a real mission.
So the first game I ever played by Insomniac was a first-person shooter called Disruptor for the PlayStation 1. And at the time that this came out, it was really early days on PlayStation, but I thought the game was incredibly fun to play. I thought the visuals were really good and competent for the hardware that it was on at the time that it released, and this was my first introduction to this developer. They would later go on to develop the Spyro the Dragon series, and I absolutely fell in love with the first game and became a huge fan. Later on the PlayStation 3, they would create the Resistance series, and they made 3 games on that platform. All of them are great. They have great single player, great multiplayer. Back in the PlayStation 2, they created the Ratchet & Clank series, which persists today. The footage we're looking at here is their most recent entry on the PlayStation 5, and this game is incredible. Not only is it really, really, really fun on a gameplay level, but visually it is a showcase for the hardware, featuring fully ray-traced graphics. You probably know Insomniac, though, from the Spider-Man series. This is what they've been working on for the last few years, and they've made 3 titles so far. All 3 of them are absolutely incredible and some of the best looking and playing games on this generation of hardware. These guys can't miss. I can't think of many games that they've developed that aren't complete bangers. These guys are now owned by Sony. Before they got bought out by Sony, though, they made a game for the Xbox called Sunset Overdrive. This is probably the one that I didn't like as much as the others. I can't wait to see what they come out next. I think the next game in their lineup is Wolverine, and that looks incredible. I cannot wait to see what they do with it. At number 3, we have Capcom, and man, I don't even know where to start with Capcom. These guys are absolute legends. They've created so many franchises, such as Ghosts and Goblins, Street Fighter, Devil May Cry. They've created the Dead Rising franchise. They've created Mega Man. They've created the Resident Evil series. They've created Monster Hunter. I mean, I could go on and on and on. I could make an hour-long video just on Capcom alone and not even scratch the surface of all the amazing games and IPs that they've owned and developed over the years. These guys are just absolute legends and some of my favorite developers. Obviously, they're on this list. And I know recently they've been known for doing a lot of remakes, especially in the Resident Evil series, but those remakes are not half-assed. They're not just cash grabs. These are from the ground up remakes with completely rebuilt graphics engines, new gameplay, quality of life improvements. They are not just, it's not just a cash grab for them. They're putting in the work, and these remakes are incredible. They have a lot of new stuff coming too. They're not just sitting on the laurels of remakes. Dragon's Dogma is a good example of a game and a series that is relatively new. This one, I think, is the most recent entry, and it comes out this year, I believe. I'm very, very much looking forward to that. It looks incredible. I mean, they all the games that they put out are worth playing. Capcom makes a variety of games that appeal to everyone. So they make fighters if you're into fighters. They make survival horror if you're into that thing. They make games like Monster Hunter. They make side-scrollers. They make RPGs. Breath of Fire is a great one. They did a lot of cool stuff on Dreamcast as well. I mean, these guys are just so well-rounded. Their portfolio has something for everyone. And I can't stop gushing about Capcom. I just love Capcom so much. At number 2, we have Naughty Dog. A lot of you guys are familiar with them. They really kind of exploded into popularity with the release of Crash Bandicoot. They released several games in that series for the original PlayStation that really put PlayStation on the map. The next series that blew up in popularity by them was Jak and Daxter. This is a terrific series that came out on the PlayStation 2. There were multiple entries in that series, and all of them are excellent. But what really made them a powerhouse is Uncharted. When they came out with these games, this was kind of the first franchise that defined the PlayStation first-party kind of game that they make. These huge, bombastic, super high production value games, and that would blossom into The Last of Us. This is a separate series, but very much in the same vein, although Uncharted was a bit more upbeat. It was kind of like Indiana Jones. This was the complete opposite when it came to that. This was dead serious, dark, and brooding, and just cemented them as one of the best game development studios on Earth. At number 1, we have Nintendo. And yes, this is my favorite developer ever. I mean, Star Fox, Fire Emblem, Mario, Zelda, Metroid, Pikmin, Donkey Kong, Kirby, Pokemon. I mean, the list goes on and on and on. I think the only other developers that have such a breadth of content would be Capcom, maybe Sega. I mean, if you look just in the past year or two, Super Mario Wonder just came out and was incredible. These guys just... There's no other developer on Earth that produces great games so consistently. Pikmin 4 was another highlight this year. I absolutely love this game. It was great. It's a Game of the Year contender for me. You know, another great example of a game released this year was the Advanced Wars 1 and 2 reboot. They remade the entries that came out on Game Boy Advance, but updated the visuals, and this was incredibly addictive and fun. Nintendo makes a really wide variety of games, and they're all terrific. Kirby in the Forgotten Land is another game that I played in 2023, and this game is incredible. It was one of my top 10 games of 2023. I absolutely loved every inch of it. I 100%ed the game. That's how much I liked it. It's just so good. I named my cat after Kirby. Mario Kart 8 is an older game, but Nintendo continues to support it even to this day. They've released dozens and dozens of downloadable tracks and characters to keep the game alive and thriving for their online community. Zelda Tears of the Kingdom is another release that came out in 2023 that was a game of the year for a lot of people, and it was exceptional. Luigi's Mansion 3 came out a few years ago, but I only got around to beating it this year, unfortunately, but that's another game that blew me away by how good it was. I can't remember the last time I played a bad Nintendo game. I mean, Nintendo is unequivocally, in my opinion, the best software developer in the world. So that's going to do it for me today, guys. This is just the first video. There are so many other developers I want to highlight, and I will do that in follow-up videos. As always, thank you for watching.